This week,
and we didn't see this coming.
the head of the Second Harvest Food Bank braces for a surge in need, with SNAP food stamp benefits possibly ending for nearly 700,000 Tennesseans.
This particular food drive is going to go to McGavock Elementary.
Thousands of those Tennesseans who may lose their benefits are children, students who are already receiving free lunch and weekend food bags.
By the time we got around to making the effort into going into Canada and other countries, the tariffs were in place.
The Trump tariff war resulted in China halting its purchases of Tennessee soybeans. Farmers face financial ruin. Now, Trump's tariff war with Canada is hurting Tennessee whiskey makers.
Got a first pay stub that had all zeros across the board.
And we speak with federal workers here in Tennessee and what they are doing to survive the government shutdown while not being paid. Hello again and welcome to another edition of This Week. Food banks are bracing for thousands of Tennesseans who may lose food stamp benefits. Many of those endangered are children already receiving government assistance. Governor Bill Lee has said this is a federal program and Tennessee cannot fund SNAP food stamp benefits. But we begin with the Trump tariff war on Canada, crippling Tennessee's whiskey industry.
Everyone knows Tennessee whiskey, world famous for a reason. But now the homegrown symbol of American craftsmanship is facing a challenge that has nothing to do with quality and everything to do with tariffs. At Southern Collective in Nashville, a young distillery that outsources its whiskey, bourbon, and spirits, CEO Trisha Brill says international growth was always part of the plan.
By the time we got around to making the effort into going into Canada and other countries, the tariffs were in place and kind of destroyed our dream of expanding.
The company opened in 2022 with optimism, expanding into European markets like Germany and the Netherlands. But this year, after President Trump reinstated sweeping tariffs on imported steel and aluminum, Canada retaliated, restricting U.S. exports, including liquor.
Definitely always there, lurking and really putting a wall in front of what we want to do.
On Monday, aboard Air Force One, President Trump defended his decision to end trade talks with Canada and impose new tariffs.
Canada's been ripping us off for a long time, and they're not going to rip us off anymore.
The comment comes after a Canadian ad featured former President Ronald Reagan warning against tariffs. It aired during 2 World Series games, reigniting a transatlantic political crossfire.
High tariffs inevitably lead to retaliation by foreign countries and the triggering of fierce trade wars.
The Reagan Presidential Foundation and Institute now says the ad misrepresents his 1987 address. Soon after, President Trump posting to his Truth Social account saying, quote, based on their egregious behavior, all trade negotiations with Canada are hereby terminated. For Tennessee's smaller operations, the politics have real-world costs. While global names like Jack Daniel's can ride out the storm, newer distilleries depend on international sales to grow.
At this point, we just don't see that it's worth it.
Canada remains America's second largest trading partner, but a new report shows sales of U.S. liquor to Canada are down 85% this year. I'll toss it back to you.
Nearly 700,000 Tennesseans are losing their SNAP or food stamp benefits due to the federal government shutdown and lack of action by the state. That includes thousands of children. The Donaldson Church of Christ is gathering food for students and their families. They say at nearby McGavock Elementary, about 90% of students already need free or reduced lunch and weekend food bags, and it's about to get worse.
We've been staying here 3 years. It was a long journey to get us here.
Esmeralda Montiel and her 5-year-old daughter fought hard for what they do have, but it's hard to ignore what they still need.
We face a lot of challenges, and I'm still overcoming, obviously, more challenges.
After multiple surgeries and a knee replacement just a few weeks ago, Esmeralda can't work to put food on their table. She's on SNAP benefits.
The disabled, the children, those that can't work, the elderly, and it's going to affect them pretty bad if we don't come together and do something about it.
At Donaldson Church of Christ, Abby Carter has been filling the need with carts full of food.
This particular food drive is going to go to McGavock Elementary, and we are going to make sure that that food pantry there is stocked.
They're starting with helping the 90% of elementary students who need food at McGavock. Then
we will put any extra things that we get and have over at our help center across the street. It is on Knobview, and it is open on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, and Tuesday mornings and Wednesday afternoons.
The help center is open to anyone. So is Wednesday's dinners at the church.
The Wednesday night dinners, we would love to have to pull out as many tables as we have to make sure people have a place to sit.
Carter understands food anxiety.
I've been on the other side of that as a child of not food scarcity, but needing.
And she hopes Donaldson Church of Christ can be part of the change, something Esmeralda is also hoping and praying for.
If you can help, do so, because this country is going to need it. A lot of people are going to need it.
A glimmer of hope for Tennessee whiskey producers. 4 Republican senators, none from Tennessee, voted with Democrats to remove the tariff on Canada. The problem, the House must also pass the bill, and it's not in session. For now, the tariffs on Canada remain. Now to our This Week cover story. As the shutdown drags on, federal workers are having to make increasingly tough decisions to make ends meet. They aren't getting paid. News 2's Caitlin Quisenberry shares more.
Since the government shutdown began earlier this month, it's forced hundreds and thousands of federal workers to work without pay.
I have unfortunately been working for free essentially for the last 2 weeks. Got a first pay stub that had all zeros across the board.
A civilian federal worker who wants to remain anonymous tells our Memphis affiliate WREG he's had to dip into his retirement because he's ineligible for unemployment. He says he's worked for this federal government agency for nearly 20 years and has experienced shutdowns before, but he says this is the first time he's gone unpaid.
Individuals like myself that are mid-career, 2 young kids, things that have to get taken care of, that's my sole income. So when you don't have that as an option, it's tough.
With no word on when the government shutdown will end, he says he's also concerned about when or if he'll receive back pay. Although he's been unpaid for weeks, he says he's optimistic about the situation because he's grateful that he still has a job.
I love my organization. I love, being a person that assists and help other folks, and basically selfless service. And, that I'm passionate about that.
Caitlin Quisenberry, News 2.
Stay with us. This Week continues in a moment. And welcome back to This Week. The threat of a loss of SNAP food stamp benefits would take food away from 700,000 Tennesseans. So far, the state is doing little to help. Hungry Tennesseans, they will not have to now rely on churches, nonprofits, food banks, and like Second Harvest Food Bank. I spoke with their CEO about this possible crisis.
We are working to be prepared. I think I would answer that question to say that for over 47 years, Second Harvest and all our 615 partners do this work every single day. There are already 450,000 people that are food insecure in our service area, and we didn't see this coming. I will tell you, though, that we are a resilient bunch of people, a lot of community help, and we're going to do everything we can to mitigate what we can, but we can't close the gap. For our 1 month, it's $50 million or 14.5 million meals that would be going out to our families. So we're going to do what we can, but we can't cover what's being lost for so many families.
A political operative told me this is the time we rely on our churches, nonprofits, and food banks. Is that even fair? Is that even realistic that churches, nonprofits, and food banks can make up for a government program that's disappearing?
See, I would flip that. What we count on the federal government to do is to have a safety net for people that are food insecure. That's what SNAP is. And then what food banks, community, and churches, our faith-based organizations, are meant to do is to lift people up beyond that. So we're the plus, not the base.
Several states are suing the federal government to try to get the benefits returned.
Yes.
Several governors, including 2 Republican governors, are using state money to offset some of the loss temporarily. Governor Lee is not doing that. Would you consider asking him, or do you think he should reconsider?
We have sent several letters, not only myself, but also the other food banks across the state, and we would very much like to ask again for him to reconsider.
There's going to be a lot of people that are on food stamps, on SNAP assistance, that people don't really understand this benefit. Most of these people are working families, struggling just a little bit, have jobs, don't make enough money, and if they lose one piece of that puzzle, in this case SNAP, they're facing the choice of paying for a mortgage or paying for food. They're really going to be put in a tough position.
Well, they were already in a tough position, and when you think about SNAP, let's just say it's on average $6 a day. How much food do you buy at $6 a day? I mean, that's all. We're asking families to do a lot. And when you're making decisions, our typical stance with SNAP being in play, we like to tell people, let us help take care of the food for you so you're not making the decision about paying for your rent, so you keep a house over your head. But we can't fill this gap and solve those problems for people. I mean, we still want to provide hope, but the gap is serious.
As this crisis prepares to unfold, and it looks like it's going to, what's the status of Second Harvest? How are you ready to deal with this? Are you already being taxed? Is it a good year for donations? Is it a better, or more people already seeking assistance?
Well, just year over year, we've had a 10% increase in need, and that was before this ever happened, and since 2020 that's a 46% increase, so it just continues to be exacerbated. There's a lot of other things going on, and you've got to also consider now there's people that are federal employees that have lost their income as well. Second Harvest plays a very important role in sourcing the food, but we also work closely with our 615 partners. So we're trying to take a multi-pronged approach and looking at counties and communities that have the highest need of SNAP benefits. We're working with our partners that have the bigger ability to get even more food. So we're trying to source more food through people that provide donations. We're looking at more purchase food, seeing where people will give us even better discounts, because we have a social enterprise, so we have the ability to buy food. We're really just trying to look at how do we do this even differently than we have before. We're moving resources up that are allocated for later in the year because we can't wait. So we're hoping to replenish some of those funds and some of that supply for the rest of the year. But right now we have to be front and center for the need that people are already experiencing, and then when November 1 hits.
Yeah. Second Harvest is a huge operation. It's nationwide. And there are times of crisis where you can help other states. This is a national crisis. Every state is facing the loss of food stamps, so there's nobody you can rely on other than folks here in Tennessee and what you do for this program.
Yeah, so we do have our social enterprise. So the food banks across the country buy food from us. So what they can't get donation-wise, they buy the food from us. But we are counting on the community here. We don't look for donations outside of our service area and outside of our community. I think the thing that's nice about Tennessee, or I should say one of the best things about Tennessee, is we have a community that really stands up for one another. Tennesseans care about their neighbors. When you think about a base of 450,000 people and then you add all these additional 246,000 more people that are on SNAP, you go to school with them, you work alongside them, they're your neighbors, and many of these people are just, when you think about a federal employee and they've never been in a food line before. So we're doing a lot of work to make sure that we're communicating where people can find food. We got a lot of calls. Our front desk is inundated with phone calls with people are saying, I've never been in this situation before. What do I do? And we want to be there to help them. We recently experienced, we have some volunteers. We have a lot of volunteers that come on a regular basis. And one individual is a government employee, lost his job, volunteers every week, and came back and said, now I need to get food because I don't have a job. That's scary.
And it takes an emotional toll on folks. Yes. You get angry, you're embarrassed. Folks, that no one wants to ask for help, but people are put in a position where they have no choice.
Right. Well, I think it's interesting you said that, like people are put in this situation. when you don't have food, it's a health crisis as well. You know, one of the things that we're trying to do is make sure people are healthier. I mean, that you think about food, that's what it's nutrition. It's part of, you know, how do you live a healthier life? I mean, people have a lot of health issues if they don't have food. Kids can't learn and grow. And so now we're going to exacerbate that with people not having access to even less food. Yeah. And so what's that going to do to the health crisis that we're already in? I know we want to make America healthy again, or healthier again. We're not going to do that by not providing food to the people that need it the most.
It doesn't look like this is going to end immediately, so this crisis is going to happen. The question is, how long does it last? And there's rumors, word out there, this could go to the beginning of next year. If that happens, there are folks who are literally going to be bankrupt, going to be out of their homes, going to be in food lines.
I've not heard till next year. That's new news for me. I am hopeful that we're talking days or weeks. This won't work for. We're too good a country to be in that environment. We're too good of a state to leave people not having access to SNAP dollars.
Tennessee is the volunteer state. I've worked for this organization for years. People always help their neighbors when they can.
So
do you rely on those folks? Will they step up again?
They continue to step up. My phone is ringing. Everybody, the staff here is amazing. We're taking phone calls, just letting people know how they can get help and how they can help. So yes, the community will step up. But like I said originally, they cannot fill the gap. But we collectively will do everything we can to put as much food and hope on the table.
If you could, what would you ask the governor, the president, or in the midst of this political fight, about the real world consequences that it's having?
I would just say we're all God's children, and everybody needs access to food, and let's do what we need to do. We've never had a shutdown, and we've never pulled food resources before. Why would we start now? And I just think that we can be a kinder place to people that live and serve in this community.
Stay with us. This Week continues in a moment. Welcome back. Nationwide, more than 42 million Americans could lose their SNAP or food stamp benefits during the government shutdown. Nearly 700,000 of those live in Tennessee. Governor Bill Lee remains steadfast. He will not dip into the state's $2 billion rainy day fund to provide benefits, saying it does not have the mechanism to load benefits into recipients' cards. It should be noted, at least 2 other Republican governors have found ways to provide emergency funds. We wanted to ask Governor Lee, is there any possible workaround in order for the state to use some of its $2 billion rainy day fund in order to help the thousands of Tennesseans losing their SNAP benefits, as at least 3 other Republican governors have figured out ways to use state funds to help pay for federal SNAP benefits in their state. But we could not because, as the governor's schedule shows, for the past 2 weeks, he has not had any public availability to the media or anyone else to answer questions on any topic. Not last week, not the week before. But while the governor was not available, the governor's office did provide us a statement that reiterated what the governor said 3 weeks ago, that the state could not and would not be able to make up for the loss of federal funding to pay for SNAP benefits. The statement reads, Congress has a responsibility to fund the federal government, and while Democrats continue to hold federal dollars hostage, my administration is working with members of the faith community and nonprofit partners to ensure Tennessee families do not go hungry. I share the frustration of hardworking Tennesseans who will be impacted by this temporary lapse, and sincerely hope Democrats will choose to put the American people ahead of politics and reopen the government. So the governor remains steadfast against using any state money in this crisis and instead moved to GOP talking points of blaming the shutdown on the government currently run by a Republican president, a Republican-controlled Supreme Court, a Republican-controlled U.S. Senate, and a Republican-controlled U.S. House. Tennessee Democratic Caucus leader John Ray Clemens was quick to respond, saying, "While Washington, D.C. is broken, and you may blame whoever you wish for the shutdown, we as state leaders have a duty to rise above partisan politics and serve those who we represent." Tennessee Democrats are urging Governor Lee to call a special legislative session to deal with the loss of SNAP benefits in Tennessee. So far, the governor has ignored the Democratic call. Democrats are also urging the governor to declare a state of emergency and address the hunger crisis. A state of emergency would empower the governor to mobilize agencies, direct emergency funds, expand local food assistance, and bolster the capacity of food banks and community organizations. Similar measures have been enacted by governors of both parties in other states. Stay with us. This Week continues in a moment. And thanks for spending part of your weekend for us. That will do it for another edition of This Week. We'll see you back here next weekend. You have a great week.